I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now. Not slow down, stop. Because what I'm about to say in the next 30 seconds has the potential to permanently change the way you show up in every relationship for the rest of your life. And I don't say that lightly. I've never said that lightly. But this one is different. There is a person, maybe past, maybe present, who loved you in a way that most people will never experience in their entire lifetime. Not the loud kind of love, not the kind that announces itself. The quiet kind, the kind that remembered the small things, the kind that showed up before you even knew you needed it, the kind that asked nothing in return and meant it. And I need you to feel the weight of that for a second, because that person is already gone, or they're leaving right now in slow motion, and you can't see it yet. And here's the part that's going to hollow you out. They didn't leave because they stopped loving you. They left because they did. Because they loved you so completely, for so long, with so little coming back, that eventually something inside them just ran out. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way you could point to. Just quietly. Like a candle that burns all the way down while you're in another room. And by the time you smell it, by the time you notice the smoke, the flame has already been gone for hours. And they didn't scream when they left. They didn't slam doors or send long messages at midnight. They didn't give you a speech or a final warning or a chance to suddenly become the person they needed. They just went quiet. And that quiet, that specific silence, is going to follow you for years. I need you to tell me something. Be honest, not with me, with yourself. When was the last time you truly paid attention to someone who was always there? Because here's what nobody is telling you, and here's why this video is going to stay with you long after you close it. The people who love the loudest are easy to notice. It's the ones who love quietly, who disappear without warning. And the way they disappear? It is the most psychologically devastating exit a human being can experience. Not because it's cruel, but because it's silent. And silence, unlike anger, cannot be argued with, cannot be blamed, cannot be filed away and forgotten. Silence just sits there, inside you, growing. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to change the way you see every relationship in your life. And if you're watching this and something already feels familiar, if something in your body just shifted, I need you to keep watching. Because the part that's going to hit the hardest, it hasn't come yet. Welcome to Imperial Mindset. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. Let me ask you something. Think about the most giving person you've ever known. The one who always showed up, who checked in without being asked, who remembered the details, the small anniversaries, the hard days, the way you take your coffee, the one who, no matter what was going on in their own life, made space for yours. You have someone in mind? Good. Hold on to that person, because what I'm about to tell you is about them. That person, the one you're thinking of right now, was running on empty for longer than you know. While you were going about your life, they were lying awake at 3 a.m., replaying conversations, and wondering why they always felt like they were reaching for someone who kept moving just out of reach. They were driving to work, rehearsing things they needed to say, and then swallowing them, again, because they were exhausted from being the only one who ever tried to fix things. They were crying in places you couldn't see, in the shower, in the car, in the 10 seconds between one room and the next. And here's the part that should make you stop breathing for a second. They were already leaving, long before you noticed, long before the silence, long before the unreturned texts and the excuses and the slow fade you probably wrote off as, "They've just been busy." They were already gone. You just didn't see it. Now, here's the question that's going to follow you out of this video and into the rest of your week. Were you paying attention when they were still trying to tell you? Because they were. They were telling you quietly, consistently, in every small way that people who love deeply try to communicate without making a scene. A comment here, a withdrawn evening there. A moment where they looked at you and waited for something that never came. They weren't dramatic about it. They were too patient, too hopeful, too willing to believe that maybe tomorrow you'd finally see what they needed. But tomorrow became the next day, and the next, and eventually, somewhere in the silence between what they needed and what they got, something closed inside them. Not with a slam, with a quiet, final click. And after that click, everything looked the same on the surface. They still showed up, still smiled, still answered when you called. But something was different. Something underneath had already decided. And you never felt it coming. Let's talk about why the quiet exit destroys people in a way that nothing else does. Because this is where psychology reveals something most people never learn until it's too late. When someone leaves dramatically, the screaming, the accusations, the slammed door, it actually gives the person left behind a gift, and that gift is a story, a villain, a reason. She was unstable. He was too much. They were always like this. Drama gives people somewhere to put the blame. It lets them walk away feeling wronged, and feeling wronged is comfortable. Feeling wronged means you don't have to look at yourself. But silence? Silence gives them nothing. No story, no villain, no place to put it. Just the slow, suffocating realization that someone who chose them every single day quietly, without applause, without being asked, eventually chose to stop. And that person didn't scream, didn't make a scene, just quietly decided that you were no longer worth the cost. And now they're gone. And you can't explain it. You can't justify it. You can't dismiss it. You just have to sit with it. That is emotional ambiguity, and psychologists call it one of the most distressing states a human mind can exist in. Because your brain cannot file it away. It cannot find closure. It keeps the wound open, keeps returning to it, keeps asking why, and because there's no answer, it asks again and again, at 2 a.m., at random moments, years later. At the beginning of every new relationship, when the fear creeps back in, the dramatic exit gives you anger. The quiet exit gives you a ghost. And you will carry that ghost for years. Now I need to stop here and say something directly to a group of you who are watching this right now and starting to feel something uncomfortable. You know who you are. You're the one thinking about someone specific, someone who used to be there and isn't anymore, someone who faded in a way you couldn't quite explain at the time and maybe still can't. And part of you, somewhere in the back of your mind, has always wondered, was it me? I'm not going to let you off the hook, but I'm also not going to leave you there. Because here's the truth, the one that most people in your position never fully face. The person who left quietly, they didn't go quietly because they hated you. They went quietly because they had already spent everything they had trying to be heard by you, and they weren't. Every time they reached out and you were distracted, every time they said, I'm fine, and you believed it because it was easier. Every time they needed something specific and got something general. Every time they showed up fully and you showed up halfway. They noticed. They kept a record they never intended to keep. Not out of malice, but because the human heart counts, even when we tell it not to. And at some point, the count became too high. And they closed the book. Here's what happened next. And this is the part that haunts people forever. The one left behind goes through something I call the search. They go back. They reread messages looking for the moment things changed. They call mutual friends. They replay every conversation, searching for the turning point. And they find things, small things they dismissed at the time. An unanswered message that sat for 3 days. A birthday that got a sorry being slammed 2 weeks later. A night the person seemed far away, and they didn't ask why. a need that was communicated clearly and got nothing back. And as they collect these pieces one by one, like evidence at a crime scene they didn't know was happening, the picture becomes unbearable. Because it means they were warned, gently, quietly, over and over, and they didn't hear it. And that knowledge, the knowledge that they could have done something, that there were 100 moments where the story could have gone differently, that is a wound that doesn't heal cleanly. It becomes the thing they carry into every relationship after. The reason they flinch when someone goes quiet. The reason they over-explain and overcompensate and cling to people who seem to be pulling away. The person who left quietly didn't just leave a relationship. They left a mark, permanent, invisible, and brutally instructive. Now here's what I haven't told you yet. And this is the part I need you to stay for. Because while the person left behind is going through all of that, the confusion, the searching, the haunting, the person who left quietly is going through something completely different. Something that looks, from the outside, like coldness, but from the inside feels like finally being able to breathe. The first weeks are hard. The quiet exit is not painless for the one who chose it. There are songs that become ruins, places they can't walk past without flinching. Ordinary Tuesday moments, where something funny happens and their hand moves toward their phone before their mind catches up and then stops. And in that pause lives the entire weight of the decision they made. But here's what's on the other side of that. Clarity. Real, bone-deep clarity that you can only find when you stop pouring yourself into something that was never going to hold you. Because when you remove yourself from a relationship that was slowly consuming you, when the noise and the emotional labor and the endless one-sided giving finally goes quiet, you can hear yourself again. Your own thoughts, your own needs, your own voice, which had been so thoroughly drowned out you'd forgotten what it sounded like. And that voice, when it comes back, doesn't whisper. It says, "This is who you are. This is what you're worth. This is what you should have been choosing all along." And now I want to speak directly to the ones watching this who are still in it. You know who you are too. You're the one who has been giving and giving with less and less coming back. The one making quiet pleas that go unheard. The one who lies awake at night, not because you're dramatic, but because something in you knows that the thing you're holding is already broken and you're the only one still trying to fix it. Part of you has known for a while. You've just been afraid to admit it. Afraid of the loneliness, the guilt, the stories they'll tell about you once you're gone. Afraid that leaving makes you the bad one when staying has been making you disappear, piece by piece, for longer than you want to count. So let me tell you what you need to hear. The guilt is not yours. The pain your absence causes is the direct result of what was not done while you were present. You tried to be heard. You tried to communicate. You gave chances more than you should have, and they were not taken. You are not responsible for managing someone else's experience of losing you. And the stories they tell? Let them. When you leave quietly, some people respond not with reflection, but with narrative. They'll call you cold, difficult, too sensitive. They'll rewrite the story so that your exit is the problem and their behavior is invisible. Let them tell it to whoever will listen. Your silence is not cruelty. It is the only language they were ever going to understand. Here's the last thing I want to leave you with. And this is the part that changes people. The quiet exit is not an ending. It is the moment, the exact, quiet, unremarkable moment when a person decides that their own life is worth showing up for. Not dramatically, not with a speech, just a decision, made in private, to stop spending energy on what was never going to honor it. And what comes after that decision is not emptiness. It is return. You return to yourself, to the version of you that existed before you started shrinking. Before the compromising and the adjusting and the endless, making yourself smaller to fit into a space that was never truly made for you. You wake up one morning and realize you haven't thought about them. Not today. Maybe not yesterday. And that absence, the absence of their absence, feels like sunlight after a season you didn't know was winter. You remember what it feels like to be full. Not full of love for someone else, full of yourself. And that fullness, that is not where the story ends. That is where it begins. So, let me ask you one more time to think about that person, the one you had in mind at the start. Are you the one who left quietly? Or are you the one still living with the echo? Because if you're the one who left, honor it. You did something harder than most people will ever admit is hard. You chose yourself when everything in you wanted to stay. You walked away from something familiar into something uncertain. And in doing so, you wrote the most important chapter of your own story. And if you're the one left behind, let this be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. The people who love quietly, give deeply, and show up without being asked, they are not guaranteed to stay. They have limits. They have a point where enough becomes enough. And when they reach it, they don't announce it. They just go quiet. Pay attention to the people in your life before they go quiet. Because the quieter their exit, the deeper your wound. And the deeper the wound, the longer the silence that follows you. This has been Imperial Mindset. If this video gave you language for something you've been carrying, share it right now, not for me, for the person in your life who needs to hear this today. Subscribe. Drop a comment. Are you the quiet leaver or the one still living with the echo? I read every single one. Stay Imperial, stay Mindset, and stay quiet about the things that don't deserve your noise.